of Oshkosh Plan Commission meeting. December 6th. City of Oshkosh Plan Commission meeting. I do see that we have a quorum. I have a few housekeeping items to go over before we begin. Please silence your cell phones and other electronic devices. To speak on an item that is listed as a public hearing, you will be allowed to address the Plan Commission after the applicant has made an opening statement. You need to state your name and address for the record. You will be allowed one turn to speak for each agenda item unless a Plan Commission member requires clarification or wishes to ask you a question. After the public finishes speaking, the applicant will be asked if they have a final statement for the Plan Commission, and then the commission will take action on that agenda item. I appreciate you all for understanding. Now we're going to go on to the agenda. Roll call, please.
Mr. Coulibaly. Ms. Davy.
Here.
Councilmember Ford.
Here.
Mr. Kiefer.
Here.
Ms. Prop.
Here.
Ms. Shireman.
Here.
Mr. Lowenstein.
Here.
Mr. Nichols. Mr. Bowen.
Here.
Vice Chair Mitchell.
Here.
Chairman Perry.
Here.
9 present.
Okay, thank you. The first item on our agenda is approval of the November 15th, 2022 minutes. Plan Commission, what's your action?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. This can be a voice, any discussion on the minutes? Okay, this can be a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay, the minutes pass. You notice item number 1 on our agenda is a consent agenda. Any members of the Plan Commission wish to remove items A, B, or C, 1A, 1B, or 1C from the consent agenda to talk about separately? Anybody wish to remove one of those items to talk about separately? Okay, seeing none, we need a motion to accept.
We'll do a quick presentation
Oh,
on very
we'll do a
briefly,
very
just so
quick
everyone
presentation.
can see what's going on.
Okay, item 1A is a request to accept sanitary sewer easements for the northeast of vacated East 8th Avenue. This is part of the T-Wall development, the pending T-Wall development, located in the city's Sawdust District. A few months ago, the city vacated this portion of East 8th Avenue. However, there is a sanitary force main which runs through East 8th Avenue and then heads to the northeast to go underneath the Fox River. The city's proposing to grant or accept 3 easements to ensure long-term access to the site for maintenance, replacement, that sort of thing for that force main. Reason why there's 3 easements involves 3 different properties by 3 different entities. Easement 1 being owned by the RDA, easement 2 being owned by the city, and then the last easement along the riverfront owned by the RDA again. The second consent agenda is release easement rights within part of the vacated East 8th Avenue right-of-way. Again, when East 8th Avenue was vacated, the city maintains statutory rights to enter and maintain, replace, inspect any city infrastructure within that right-of-way. However, looking at T-Wall's proposed plans, some of their structures may encroach into the right-of-way slightly. So the Department of Public Works determined that the southern 12 feet of East 8th Avenue is not required and would not impact any access to the force main if needed. So the city's proposing to give up the access right or easement rights to that portion of East 8th Avenue. And the last item on the consent is accepting storm sewer easements north of East 9th Avenue. But right here, this is the newly recently dedicated East 9th Avenue, which ties into Pioneer Drive, crossing the tracks. Up here is the former Pioneer Drive, which went along the river. During plans for East 9th Avenue construction and the Riverwalk, there is a storm sewer that flows to an outfall into the Fox River. You can see the outfall right here. And the city is requesting acceptance of these 2 easements in case these two parcels of land should transfer, well, actually, I'm sorry. This one will remain in city hands for a very long time, but there is a potential of this lot transferring hands to a third party. So the city's requesting that access, or the storm sewer easement to ensure that the city will have continued access to that storm sewer that runs through there. So that's just a brief summary of the consent agenda items. So we're recommending approval as presented.
Thank you. I'm going to accept your staff report as part of the record. Are there any technical questions by the Plan Commission on the consent agenda? Okay, having seen none, I will ask for the Plan Commission to make a motion.
Motion to adopt the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We will have a roll call, or any discussion on this motion? Okay, we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Miss Davy?
Aye.
Councilmember Ford?
Aye.
Mr. Kiefer?
Aye.
Miss Prop?
Aye.
Miss Shireman?
Aye.
Mr. Lowenstein?
Aye.
Mr. Bowen?
Aye.
Vice Chair Mitchell?
Aye.
Chairman Perry?
Aye.
Motion carried 9-0.
Thank you. Item number 2 is a public hearing. It's official map amendment, deletion of map Campbell Creek Storm Drainage Detention Area generally located at the southwest corner of 9th Avenue and South Washburn Street. The city of Oshkosh is the owner and applicant. Have there been any site inspections by the Plan Commission members there? Okay, having seen none, I will accept the staff report as part of the record, so please present your summary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Back in 2006, the city officially mapped this area showing up on the screen off of West 9th Avenue and South Washburn Street. The purpose for the official mapping was to preserve the land for eventual construction of a stormwater detention pond, which was eventually constructed in 2016. Official mapping is the process where a municipality, or it's a tool where a city or municipality can designate or reserve areas for specific uses for future acquisition and development. One of these uses is the mapping of future city facilities such as this pond. As the development, when the development occurs, the city has the option to release the official mapping rights, as the official mapping more or less prohibits any type of development within the mapped area. Generally, it's used for mapping of public streets, parklands, and drainage feature, stormwater ponds such as this. However, that mapped area is treated as right-of-way, so any development occurring within there has to meet setbacks of the underlying zoning district, which more or less puts a restriction on the entire area. This request came about, the city was approached by a developer to purchase this portion of property, which is, I'll go back to this one. This nub right here, the city was approached by a developer looking to potentially redevelop these sites up here and wanted to include this portion right here. Well, with that official mapping in place, that puts that restriction on this land, even though it would be sliced off and sold to the developer. So the city is requesting to delete that official mapping, which will remove that restriction on this portion of the property. The Department of Public Works reviewed this request and does not have any issues with the official map deletion, as the pond has been constructed and the official mapping has served its purpose. So staff is recommending approval of the proposed official map deletion as requested.
All right, thank you. Plan Commissioner, are there any technical questions for the planning staff? Any technical questions? Okay, seeing none. This is a public hearing, and so I will open the public hearing now. And the city, does the city wish to speak further on this? Okay, so are there any members of the public that wish to speak on this particular agenda item? Any members of the public wishing to speak on this particular agenda item? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and put this action out to the commission. Plan Commission, what do you have for this item?
Make a motion to adopt.
What,
findings.
Mr. Bone?
Just a quick comment. The developer here, petitioner, is a partner of mine on other projects. I'll be voting present.
We have a motion again, I'm sorry.
Yep, make a motion to adopt the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, having seen none, we will have a roll call vote, please.
Ms. Davy?
Aye.
Councilmember Ford?
Aye.
Mr. Kiefer?
Aye.
Ms. Prop?
Aye.
Ms. Shireman?
Aye.
Mr. Lowenstein? Mr. Bowen?
Present.
Vice Chair Mitchell?
Aye.
Chairman Perry?
Aye.
How do I say that with the present?
801.
801, okay. Thanks.
All right, item number 3, which is also a public hearing. It's the approval of design standards alteration review for 611 Oregon Street. Chrisland Holdings LLC is the owner. RH Design Build. Susan Hirschberg is the applicant. Have there been any site inspections by the Plan Commission to this site? Mr. Bowen, Ms. Prop, Mr. Lowenstein? Okay, I will accept the staff report as part of the record. Please present your summary.
Thank you, Chairman. So the subject site, as stated, is at 611 Oregon Street. It's located in the Central Mixed Use Zoning District. When we have changes or alterations to the outside of a building in the CMU district, there are different design standard reviews that apply. So this is one of those situations. The facade that's being altered, I should mention there's alterations to the inside and the outside, but for the purpose of this review, it is just for the outside of the building. So the east-facing facade seen in the picture here is the current, what is currently present, and this is what's being proposed. So they're going to remove some existing, can I use the, let's see, this thing? In the previous photo, this is existing metal paneling, which is a class 1, considered a class 1 material, which is class 4, or sorry, class 4 material, and is prohibited in the CMU district. And with the changes that they're making, they're going to they're proposing a vinyl siding, which is a class 2 material, which would be allowed, and the existing windows and the frames would meet the standards for storefronts. The additional window area also enhances the appearance of the facade. And so, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. With that, staff is recommending approval of those changes.
Yeah, if you look at that facade, you can see the brick on the southern portion of the building. If you go back to the other image for me, Brandon, is not original either. It was storefront glass. At some point, it had been removed and closed in. Now the applicant wants to kind of return it to storefront glass. So we're kind of updating, not all the way back to maybe what was once there, but closer to what was once there, which is why staff kind of supports the changes.
All right, Plan Commission, any technical questions for the staff? Any technical questions? I have one. So because there's a substantial reduction in the what would be a non-approved brick facing, does that trigger anything that says that if they've removed all of that, that they have to remove all of it to go back to Cream City brick?
No, there is nothing in our code present that would require that. So they are permitted to change out those materials. But yeah, even the southern brick is not that Cream City brick, but the northern, and then you can see like the end walls and stuff of the building are all that original Cream City brick. But that lower portion that exists today was not.
Any other technical questions? Okay, since this is a public hearing, I will open it and request a statement from the applicant. Is the applicant here tonight?
Yep.
Would you like to make a statement for the Plan Commission?
Really, our mission is really just to beautify the neighborhood.
Can you come up to the podium and just name and address as well, just so we have it for the minutes?
Chris Morth with Chrisland Holdings. So yeah, our mission with this project is just beautifying the neighborhood and getting the brick off there. So you know, a lot of this had gone through the proposal earlier when we had done there were actually a couple apartments inside of there. So we're just right now trying to get the siding side of it squared away. So deviated from what we had in the initial state approved plan. So.
And I did make an error before I said the final siding was Class 2. It's actually a Class 3 material.
Okay. Is there, at this time, I'm inviting other members of the public who wish to speak on this agenda item. Is there anybody that would like to speak on this agenda item? Okay, having seen none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Usually I would ask for a closing statement from the applicant, but since nobody else has spoken, it is not necessary. Commission, what is your action on this agenda item?
Motion to accept the recommendations and findings as stated in the staff report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that motion? Okay, having seen none, we'll have a roll call vote.
Miss Davy?
Aye.
Councilmember Ford?
Aye.
Mr. Kiefer?
Aye.
Miss Prop?
Aye.
Ms. Shireman? Mr. Lowenstein? Mr. Bowen?
Aye.
Vice Chair Mitchell?
Aye.
Chairman Perry?
Aye.
Motion carried 9-0.
Right, on to item number 4, which is also a public hearing. It's a conditional use permit amendment for an expansion of an institutional residential use and a conditional use permit for a group development at 851 County Road Y. Winnebago County is the owner and the applicant. Have there been any site inspections of that site? Ms. Davy, Mr. Mitchell, Mr. Bowen. Seeing no others, I will accept this staff report as part of the record. Please present your summary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The subject site is located on the south side of County Road Y, west of Jackson Street, about a third of a mile. The subject lot was recently enlarged from a 120-foot by 60-foot to a 220-foot by 120-foot lot via certified survey map that was recently recorded. The site is located on county-owned property. To the north, this is the former the county landfill. This is the city's recycling center or waste handling center. This is the county sheriff's office right over here. Actually, no, I'm sorry. This is the highway department. This is a recycling center. I'm sorry, got those mixed up. And this right here is the proposed site for this use expansion. This is a close-up view. As I mentioned before, the lot was recently increased in size to allow for expansion of the use. Currently, there is a two-bedroom, more or less, mobile home located on the site. Which was approved as an institutional residential use through a conditional use permit in December of 2018. The use was for was used for a residential facility for a county resident convicted of sexual offenses and deemed ready for release. The original conditional use permit included a condition that the residential structure would be limited to a maximum of 1 occupant and a maximum of 2 bedrooms. And then in 2019, the actual structure was constructed on site. And then in November of 2020, the CUP was amended to allow a second resident in the existing house, as the structure had 2 bedrooms and no major alterations were required to the property. And now the applicant is proposing a second amendment, which would totally redesign the site by removing the 2-bedroom structure and replace it in phases with up to 11 single-bedroom structures, smaller structures. Each group, there'd be 3 sets of 3 trailers or mobile homes constructed at first, and 1 set of 2 mobile homes for a total of 11 one-bedroom dwelling structures. With this being development with over 3 principal structures, this will qualify as a group development. Group developments have some additional design standards which will be reviewed during site plan review. And let's go. This is a architectural plan of the proposed structures. Each dwelling unit will be constructed in each structure will be a 12-foot wide by 28-foot long, 576 square foot structure containing kitchen and living room area, a full bath, a single bedroom, and laundry facilities. This is a view of what the groups of three will look like from the outside. This is a perspective from the southwest, which would be the side opposite of County Highway Y. And then this would be the view from County Highway Y looking south from the street. Preliminary plans have been submitted for the proposed development, and then that will be followed by final plans, including site design, landscaping, parking, lighting, and stormwater management, which will be reviewed as part of the site plan review process. Staff is supportive of the CUP amendment for the institutional residential use, as this use has been established on the site, however, on a smaller scale. The site continues to be in an appropriate location based on the surrounding county government land uses, more notably the sheriff's office being on the same or adjacent parcel. And in the 3 years since the facility has been in operation, there have been no issues reported related to public safety. So staff is recommending approval of the CUP amendment and the conditional use permit for the group development with two conditions. One being the residence or the property is limited to a maximum of 11 structures or occupants, and the site shall comply with group and large development standards.
All right, thank you for your report. Plan Commission, are there any technical questions to the staff at this time? Mr. Mitchell?
If I were to propose a 11-unit development somewhere, anywhere in the city in general, what are the impervious surface requirements? Like this one, their map says 41.5% impervious. Is that?
So it's based on zoning district, not necessarily the specific land use. Each zoning district has a maximum allowed impervious surface. Institutional
is 60%, I believe, right?
If I were to do in a district that allows multifamily, for example, a 12-unit, 11-unit development, is the 41% impervious in general below? Is it above by far?
I would say it is below.
Thank you for that. You don't need to give a specific. And then it says that a landscape plan has not been submitted. Similarly, if I were to do an 11-unit multifamily somewhere, in general, there'd be a landscaping point attached to that.
Correct.
Is that something that?
So as part of a conditional use permit, the code does not require that. So whether it's conditional use permit for this or any other CUP, they're not required to provide a landscape plan. The thing with CUPs is they have to be fully code compliant. So when they do the landscaping, it has to fully meet code. There can be no deviation from it. So anything that goes through a CUP, that would be the norm.
I'm confused on that, sorry. So the CUP is, the basis for them requesting it is, I think, the population that they're serving and how they're doing it. So you could argue that this could conceivably utilize or adhere to what we would require for a multifamily 12-unit type of development for landscaping points. You're saying that the CUP itself, what we're voting on today, doesn't require those points, but when they do whatever they're going to do, that's going to actually then require those points.
Correct. The actual CUP process, whether it's for this or any other CUP, even we have multifamily can be done as a CUP in some districts. They wouldn't have to provide it during this time, but it will, whether it's them or anyone else, have to meet our standards before they get final site plan approval. Does that make sense?
Yeah, they would not be allowed any base standard modifications or anything like that. They just have to meet the base code requirements.
Can I ask one follow-up on that? What would those requirements be? And again, I don't need the specific 14 points, but would it be what is the code that they'd be adhering to here?
Yeah, they will have to meet our landscape code.
And that's across the board, whether you're doing industrial, downtown?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll have to meet street frontage, paved area, building foundation, our normal code sections that we do with landscaping. They'll have to comply with all of them.
Got it. Thank you.
All right, Plan Commission, any other technical questions? Mr. Lowenstein?
Since I'm new to this, I'm just interested about the way that the lot size was just increased. why did they choose that amount? I mean, it still feels very crowded on the lot as opposed to, I should assume it's all city, or all county land anyway, and then that's just for the way the zoning works. They said all of a sudden you just make a lot twice as big.
So they went through a certified survey map, CSM, which is the mechanism you use to split and divide property up to a certain number of lots. That is an administrative approval process. It's a code section that lays out the standards. You have to meet them. You can't deviate from them. If you meet them, the CSM is approved. So they chose the lot size based on what they were planning on doing. It meets all the minimum code standards for setbacks, lot size, and those things. So that's where it meets the code, therefore it gets approved.
Other technical questions? All right, I see none. And so this is a public hearing. So I will open the public hearing and I will request a statement from the applicant. Is the applicant here tonight? Yes. Would you like to make a statement for the record? Name and address for our record.
John Damel, 1923 Damel Street. I did not plan that, by the way. That's just how the house landed for the family. Winnebago County Executive. Appreciate this project being in front of you today. This is probably one of the hardest things that I've had to push for in my time. This is something I asked my board to understand, not necessarily support. But seeing as 980s are now an issue for counties to solve, the state has given it to us. We have to put them somewhere. This is, I guess, the best place that we could think of through the county to do so, with still giving some dignity to the people that are there. We had some issues with the trailer that we had for 2 bedrooms and 1. We had compatibility issues that found us potentially looking for another spot outside of the county or outside of this location. And we want to be cognizant of the fact that we might face those challenges again, that we might face a female 980 in the future, that we wanted to make sure that we had individual living spaces to kind of check off all the boxes for reasons that they would say that this is no longer the location. Our county board did make the policy decision to invest a little over $1 million into this project, which again was hard to go and ask for them for. And I believe this is the solution that's right for Winnebago County, seeing as I've found out now that a 980 can live in supervised release indefinitely. It is up to them if they want to ask for release to go out to the rest of the world, and that we will have to house them in a place. So this is, I think, the best long-term solution, why you see 11 units potential there, and why we're looking to get rid of the 2-bedroom unit is because we think long-term sustainability, this will help us with that issue well into the future, to remove any kind of curveballs for us to come back to this commission and ask for an adjustment again. We are hoping this is the last time. And of course, we wanted to make sure that this facility was as close to the sheriff's department as possible. Previously, we had 2 out in Wolf River, where the sheriff actually had to drive into Waupaca County to get back into Winnebago County to get to that unit. We had one incident where we did have to get out there pretty quick, and I think it was 26 minutes, lights and sirens, to get there. So we figured that for Winnebago County, this is probably the best place for it.
Thank you. Since this is a public hearing, I'm going to open the floor to other public comment on this matter. Is there anybody else from the public that wishes to comment? Please approach the podium and state your name and address for our records, please.
Hi, my name is Tim Schultz, and my address is 4263 Jackson Street. And I have a concern about the use of the site because my wife and I own and operate a state licensed daycare center out of our home, and we live right next to the sheriff's department, the house right next to it. And it's kind of close for that type of people being in my zone. It makes me very uncomfortable. Now I'm thinking if they do it, I'm gonna have to put up a privacy fence to protect my children in our daycare when they're outside. Now they're not gonna be able to see the wildlife that they get to see now with just a chain link fence. And I'm not gonna feel safe out there. It's just like, even with the sheriff's department, when the sheriff's department releases people that are in there, they throw their litter on my property and in my ditch with their names on it. And I've taken it to the sheriff's office several times, never heard anything done about it. That's littering for one. And you got their name. So the people should have gotten a ticket for littering at least. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments. Any other member of the public wish to comment at this time on this agenda item? Any other member of the public wish to comment? Okay, having seen none, I'm going to close the public hearing and request a closing statement from the applicant. Does the applicant wish to make a closing statement? Yes.
Yeah, thank you for coming, by the way. I do appreciate that. I just wanted to assure this commission that people on supervised release aren't even allowed to step outside of the unit to so much as to grab a paper without supervision. And I do understand the concerns, very much so.
For the rest of their life? Or
Correct. When you were on supervised.
I don't understand that because I have a brother that is a sex offender.
Hold on.
Sorry, 980s are a very specific group. There are plenty of sex offenders in the county that we do not have to house. This is a very specific one that they serve their time, then they go to Sandridge, and then they petition for release, and then they come out and it has to be supervised. So anyone who is a 980, they cannot so much as step out of the apartment or the unit at all without supervision. And doing so is a violation of their agreement. Then they go back to Sandridge. So I just wanted to assure you that these people are not free to roam the grounds. They're not even free to roam the lot line. They cannot leave their apartments without direct supervision. I believe one that we have there now has 24-hour supervision, so there is always somebody there at that apartment 24 hours a day.
Thank you. Mr. Bowen, you have a question.
Yeah, John, so I remember approving this in 2019 or 18, whatever it is, and my recollection then was that we had approved a two-bedroom unit with a maximum of one occupant, and that the second bedroom for on-site, was that for the on-site supervision? Is that how that functioned? I don't remember specifically. I guess, could you describe how the supervision occurs in this proposed setting versus how it occurred in the other one?
Sure, I can answer that. I'm not sure exactly how it was set up. I can tell you right now both bedrooms are being used by two separate 980s, and the supervision is done in shifts. It's not where one person that goes there or sleeps there. It's in shifts that they kind of transfer out, that people come in and are supervised 24 hours a day, but it's not the same person watching one person throughout. Does that answer your question?
I guess so it's a single supervisor, and sorry, this is just, I think, gonna help all of us understand exactly as we expand a use that's a concerning use, how we
Correct.
can maybe do it a little bit more comfortably. Can you help me understand if we're going from 1 to 2 people being supervised by 1 or 2 people in shifts, how that supervision translates to a potential of 11 occupants in the unit?
Sure. The 24-hour supervision is very rare, and that was an argument that we made in the court, that if this person needs 24-hour supervision, then why are they being released in the first place? Unfortunately, we did not win that argument. But, you know, and a supervision is whenever they're going to leave, that's when the appointment is scheduled. Whoever is supervising comes, gets them, takes them if they're going to go to get food or whatever, or a doctor's appointment, whatever. Whenever they have to leave the unit, they have to be in tow with somebody. And Mary Ann, would you like to explain that a little better?
So there is always,
State your name.
oh yeah, Mary Ann Miller, Corporation Counsel for Winnebago County. There is always electronic monitoring. As County Executive Damel referenced, this one-on-one supervision with one of the current residents is because this resident has certain needs which required one-on-one supervision. When the city approved the conditional use permit in December 2018 and basically said there could be one occupant in the mobile home that was purchased, and I think had 2 bedrooms. I don't know if there was even a possibility of having 1 bedroom. But it was not thought that because we'd have 2 bedrooms, there would be someone always supervising the current occupant. We're faced with this most recent situation because one of the occupants who is currently in that mobile home has higher needs. But going back to your question of, well, what about these 11 units? They are always on electronic monitoring. They are in the shadow of the sheriff's office. As County Executive Damel indicated, during the first year, they are not allowed to go off-site without any kind of supervision. That is a parole officer who might take them to a doctor's appointment, who might take them to the grocery store or something to that effect. So they are highly monitored, if that answers your question.
All right, while we have Mr. Damel up there, is there any other questions for him? Ms. Shireman?
How do you know that 11 is the right number? Because we hear there's 2 out there, there's been a couple in Black Wolf.
I don't. What I do know is we have 2 now. We have 1 waiting that we are supposed to, the clock is ticking to find them residency. And I believe we have 4 or 5 more in Sandridge that could apply at any time. And we have no idea how many more in the prison system that haven't made it to Sandridge yet. So when we went by 11, we thought that our best guess is that 7 would probably do the trick. But we don't want to be surprised again in the future. Yep, and we don't want to go forward. And if we're going to do something like this and the state ever changes their mind on 980s, these people will be gone, and this would be fantastic veteran housing in a second. I would rather have that.
Is there the chance that it will go the opposite way, like 7, 11, like 15? Like what if you, in 2 years you're back and you're like, I need 15? Is there more room around that?
I don't believe so. Your typical 980 is usually released after 2 to 3 years of supervision. It is rare that somebody goes 9 years, I think is the maximum, and it's potential that somebody doesn't want to go back out in the world and can choose to stay in supervised release indefinitely. All right.
Any other questions for the county executive while we have him up there? All right, thank you. Commission, this is on your table now for action.
Make a motion to adopt the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this motion? Any discussion on this motion? I do have something that I need to say. In a previous decade, I was a director at a Wisconsin county that dealt with individuals like this. And back then, and I'm not going to say how many decades ago, but a couple, back then it was $1,600 a day to house individuals with these needs, and that was 100% on the county tax levy. That means every dollar came from the taxes that we pay, and there was no way to capture any federal or state funds for this. My understanding now is that the state is up the ante and is actually fining counties if they cannot remove individuals when their removal date has been set, which adds on to it now. So if it was $1,600 so many years ago, I can't imagine what the cost to the taxpayer would be today. While I don't think that there is a good solution in any way, shape, or form for any of these types of things, this is one of the only counties that is taking this kind of action to do something about this population and work with its taxpayers. And so I will be supporting this, but I think that some of that background of even up to 20 years ago is important for the commission to note. Any other discussion on this motion? Okay, having seen none, roll call vote.
Ms. Davy?
Aye.
Councilmember Ford?
Aye.
Mr. Kiefer?
Aye.
Ms. Prop?
Aye.
Ms. Shireman?
Aye.
Mr. Lowenstein?
Aye.
Mr. Bowen? Vice Chair Mitchell?
Aye.
Chairman Perry?
Aye.
Motion carried 9-0.
Thank you. Item number 5 on the agenda. It's a conditional use permit request for a multifamily use at 913 and 915 South Main Street. Titan Commercial LLC is the owner and applicant. Have there been any site inspections of this? Mr. Lowenstein, Mr. Mitchell, Ms. Prop, Mr. Bowen, and I think that was it. All right, I will accept the staff report as part of the record. Please present the summary.
Thank you. So the site is located on the west side of the 900 block of South Main Street. It has a 3-story historic retail building that was built in 1895, and it's been vacant for several years. It is zoned Central Mixed Use District. The surrounding area is mostly commercial and industrial uses, along with residential uses to the west. The petitioner is proposing to convert the existing building into apartment units. A conditional use permit was approved for multifamily development in 2018, which was never developed, and it expired the following year. The applicant is now requesting to renew the CUP as they were previously unable to secure needed tax credits to complete the project and now intend to reapply for those tax credits. The first floor will be remodeled into 5 live-work townhome-style apartment units. The upper 2 floors will consist of 18 loft-style apartment units with a mixture of 1 and 2 bedroom configurations. Here's a street view of the property. The large storefront glass facades will allow for home offices, galleries, and meeting spaces on the main street front of the building with movable partition walls to separate the living spaces from home office and gallery spaces. The layout is designed to allow for first floor live-work units to transition back to full storefront retail at some point if in the future if necessary. The long-term vision for this area, per the Imagine Oshkosh plan, is for a mixed-use, pedestrian-oriented district. So the subject property would be a good candidate for a mixed-use building with upper floor residential and ground floor retail and commercial. But staff is willing to support the ground floor units if they are constructed to more easily allow the units to be rehabilitated into commercial spaces in the future. Also, all window openings should be maintained or restored, and the rehab of the first floor window fronts should not reduce any of the glazed area and should remain to look as storefronts. The renovation does not include any changes to the existing building footprint, parking area, or exterior appearance of the site. The plan does include 5 parking stalls to the rear of the building, which we access from the alley. So properties within the CMU district are exempt from off-street parking requirements. However, they are required to provide 1 parking space per dwelling unit within 1,000 feet of the unit. So they will need to provide evidence of those 18 additional parking stalls within 1,000 feet of the building. And with that, staff recommends approval of the CUP with the findings and conditions in your staff report.
Thank you for your report. Plan Commission, any technical questions to the staff on this? Councilmember Ford.
Yeah, and this might be for the applicant too, but in the narrative, they kind of just assume they're going to get the credits this time. Just curious why it didn't work out last time.
I'll defer that to the applicant,
Okay.
they can better explain it.
Thank you.
And Mr. Bowen.
Oh, it doesn't matter. My question is about the parking spots. So 18 additional will have to be required in order to move forward. Is there 18 parking spots around there?
So they have a plan for parking for the rest of it. You don't see it up here today, mainly because with the way tax credit filings is, there's an upcoming deadline and they need to secure essentially approved land use to be able to apply for those credits. So you're only seeing this portion of the project, but they are actually have some adjacent property that they're planning for parking.
Okay.
But in trying to do the best we can to work with their timeline and make sure they're eligible to apply for tax credits, we're handling just the CUP right now.
Like, chicken or the egg, like, I'm supportive of it, but I want to make sure there's 18 around there and I'm not.
Yep,
sure
they got
what it-
some property to the southwest of here that parking will be accommodated on.
That's enough for me. Thank you.
Mr. Bowen?
So this is a sort of a silly question. All existing window openings shall be maintained and all boarded up window openings shall be restored. Patio doors on the second floor that seem to open, like slider patio doors. What sort of code power do we have over what goes in there?
So there we're really talking about the first floor,
I've always
that
laughed at
store.
those have always, like, those have been there for like 15 years, and I've always laughed about the patio doors on the second floor.
That condition, we're really talking about the first floor, maintaining that commercial appearance.
Okay.
We're
So, like,
specific,
enforcement authority, like, do we have anything to say, like, hey, we can't have patio doors on the second floor then?
we could look at building code, but my assumption is they probably have some plans to renovate that. We could ask if they have, but I'm assuming they've got some thoughts on it.
Okay.
Mr. Mitchell?
Let's say that they came forward and said, well, we'd like to do 16 parking stalls and 6 bicycle parking stalls because we believe our location in Center City is going to be attractive to a younger population that may not rely on vehicles. Do we offer that sort of flexibility if they were asking for
Yeah,
it?
the areas they're looking at, we probably will be able to accommodate that, and based on their clientele, they may, be able to provide less parking just based on what they're expecting loading is. And that's a conversation we started with them, so we may be able to reduce it further. Depending upon where they go, some of them may be ancillary conditional use parking lots that are gonna come back to you, and then we can have those discussions further.
Thanks.
Any other technical questions from the Plan Commission? Okay, seeing none, I am actually gonna have a public comment period on this, so is there any member from the, or is the applicant here to give a statement to us? Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, Ryan Patty, S73W14855, Cherrywood Drive, Muskego, Wisconsin.
I'm Todd Hutchison with Wisconsin Redevelopment. I live at 2536 Fond du Lac Road in Oshkosh, Wisconsin.
So I actually grew up in Oshkosh, went to high school, middle school here, moved to Milwaukee, and I've always wanted to kind of come back and do a project in the city. So this area has always kind of been dear to my heart, and I do a lot of projects like this down in Milwaukee. I have for the last 20 years, so I can kind of address some of the issues that you brought up, like the windows. So we are going to go for historic tax credits, so we are going to have to follow historic guidelines, and hopefully, I always like to bring them back to the original as close as we can. So that's fine. If I have a history of projects down there I could show you guys, but we always try to bring it back as close to original as we can so it keeps that historic feel and kind of what you're looking to do in the Sawdust District. As far as parking, we do have some other parcels that are currently under contract that we plan on. I'd like to try to oversubscribe parking so we can have some additional parking in the future possibly because of what the city's plans are for that district and kind of the amount of people that will be there. Can't guarantee it, but it will at least meet the requirements that you guys are looking for to have, for the residents. I can't remember what the third question was. Patio doors, yeah, please. I'd love to get rid of those as well. It's hideous.
There was also a question about the prior application, if there's anything you can weigh in.
I can let Todd weigh in on that one.
Yeah, so the property currently is owned by Titan Commercial or Titan Properties that actually have their offices in the building next door. I worked with them in, I believe, 2018 to come to the committee for the same approval, and we received the approval. So in 2018, we applied for tax credits, and I've done a lot of tax credits that's my primary focus has been for the last 20 years, and I've completed probably 24 tax credit projects around the state. We applied for tax credits in 2018, and we missed it by 1 point. It's a very competitive process. So we actually did apply the next year again in 2019. We boosted our points. We ended up losing by 5 points. So it's a very competitive process. It's hard to tell. WIDA changes the scoring every 2 years. We in answer to somebody's question, but whether or not we think it's competitive, we're not sure. And in fact, we're evaluating that right now. The applications are due January 27th. If we do submit for the tax credits, which is what the plan is right now, we wouldn't actually hear until April. And then the likelihood that we would start construction wouldn't be until probably April of the next year. So it's kind of a long process. This is just the first step. And this is, as Mark had mentioned, this is a requirement that we have to have zoning in place before we can even make the application to WIDA. So, I think Titan kind of got tired of the process. Ryan saw it because of his connection here, and when I saw that he was interested, and I'm familiar with the work that he's done in Milwaukee, it's very impressive. Thought that we could maybe team up and try this one more time. So we're going to give it a shot and see what happens. And we've done our projects include both historic and low-income housing tax credits, so you can combine the two, or you can also just do it as historic versus the light tech. But for right now, it's getting approval for this so that we can apply for the light tech as an option.
Thank you. Ms. Shireman would like to ask you a question.
Are you only moving forward with it if you get the tax credits? Because you don't own it currently. Titan does.
No, I want to move forward with the project regardless if it's the tax credits or market rate. So
Okay.
I want the project to happen regardless.
It's a nice reminder of how long this takes, because I'm like, April of, it's like 2024, so we sit there with that,
You
look
have to have your eye on
for.
the ball for a long time.
Yeah, okay,
Sadly.
thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there any other member of the public that would like to speak on this agenda item? Any other member of the public would like to speak on this agenda item? All right, having seen none, I'm going to close that public comment period. I know that we really don't need a closing statement from the applicant, so Commission, what is your action on this?
Make a motion to adopt the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this motion? Mr. Bowen?
Just a quick question for Mark. The conditional use permit from, was it
2018.
2018. We have to reestablish it because the characteristics of this project are different, or because of the timeline?
Timeline.
The use was never established.
Correct. If you don't establish the use of an approved conditional use permit within 12 months, conditional use permits do expire.
I couldn't remember what I knew the conditional use permit had sort of a sundown, so to speak. I just couldn't remember what that looked like, so that was.
You must begin within 12 months.
Thanks.
Mr. Mitchell?
Just wanted to comment quickly that I think this is an exciting development to have in front of us. It tackles two really important aspects of our community and the need for affordable housing, as well as historic preservation of some of our beautiful architecture. So props to you guys for moving this forward.
Any other discussion on the motion? I have a comment as well. I find this interesting. This agenda item came up now because I was driving home just the day before the agenda got sent out to us, and I saw a Titan van, and I said to myself, whatever happened to that project from 2018? And literally the next day, it's here on the page. There are a few of us that are still here that were a part of that meeting in 2018, and I do recall that there was a secondary parking lot. I thought it was to the north, but you say southwest. But anyway, there was a lot, not on Main Street, but just off of Main Street that was within that 1,000 feet. And it was an exciting project then, and it's an exciting project now. And so I'm really hoping this gets off the ground pretty quickly here. Any other comment on the motion? Okay, having seen none, we'll have a roll call vote.
Ms. Davy?
Aye.
Councilmember Ford?
Aye.
Mr. Kiefer?
Aye.
Ms. Prop?
Aye.
Ms. Shireman?
Aye.
Mr. Lowenstein? Mr. Bowen? Vice Chair Mitchell?
Aye.
Chairman Perry?
Aye.
Motion carried 9-0.
Wonderful. Item number 6 is a specific implementation plan amendment for an electronic message board at 2300 Witzel Avenue. Kelsey Ann Hayes is the applicant. Glacier Dental is the owner. Have there been any site inspections? Mr. Bowen? Any others? Okay, I will accept the staff report as part of the record. Please present your summary.
Thank you. So the subject site is located on Witzel Avenue. It's west of Westbrook Drive and north of Graceland Drive. The property is zoned neighborhood mixed-use district with a planned development overlay. This year, a general development plan and specific implementation plan were approved for a dental clinic development at this site. And landscape modifications were approved as an SIP amendment back in September. So the applicant is requesting an SIP amendment for ground sign. The plan is for a two-sided, 10-foot tall monument sign, which includes a 26 square foot static sign and 24 square foot electronic message center. It will have a 25-foot front setback from the property line. So the applicant is requesting a BSM for the proposed electronic message center sign, as that type of sign is prohibited in the NMU district. So according to the applicant, the sign is needed as Glacier Dental is being developed on a busy street where they feel an EMC would attract drivers and pedestrians to the facility, and they would advertise for hiring events and display time and temperature and specials. They also feel that it would not be detrimental to the neighboring residential properties as it's perpendicular to the road and facing commercial properties to the west, and the residential properties to the east are 200 feet from the sign. They also note that the EMC will have a photo eye that will automatically adjust the lighting of the display so that it dims at night, and Glacier Dental has stated that they will not run the display past curfew hours to help cut down on any issues with the neighboring residents. However, staff has concerns with allowing an EMC at the site due to the proximity of neighboring residential properties to the south and to the east as well. Also, prohibiting the display of an EMC at this property will be consistent with the purpose of the sign ordinance, as it's intended to preserve the value of private property by assuring the compatibility of signs with surrounding land uses. Also, staff does not feel that there are any circumstances unique to the property that justify a BSM to allow the EMC. The applicant's narrative also mentions that there's an EMC along Witzel Avenue to the east for Winnebago County Credit Union. However, this sign is located just off of Washburn, and it's in the SMU district, which does allow electronic message signs, and it is also surrounded by commercial land uses. So staff recommends denial of the SIP amendment with the findings in your staff report.
Okay, thank you for your report. Plan Commission, are there any technical questions for the staff on this item? Ms. Shireman.
I was gonna ask about the credit union sign, and I understand that it's in a, it's a couple blocks up. From a size perspective, can you just ballpark how much larger the Glacier Dental sign is going to be from that credit union sign?
Don't know if we specifically have the numbers. We try to look.
Because it feels very monstrous in addition to the, I understand the lighting and it's in residential, like I understand that, but it also feels very large, and I'm just, wondering if there is any sort of compromise.
The overall size, I believe, is within the code parameters.
Okay, so it's not.
Correct. The size is allowable in that district.
Specifically the EMC.
Okay.
EMCs in our code are reserved for those commercial corridors, the SMU, which is why the SMU allows those. They're large, vibrant commercial corridors. They're generally not as close to residential. As we move into the NMU, which is the lowest of our commercial districts before we transition out of commercial, is really reserved for those low-intensity uses, and the code doesn't envision this type of sign because it's not necessarily appropriate for use in those areas.
Got it.
Mr. Kiefer.
Just, so it really is just the EMC portion of that sign that so if they want to put the Glacier Dental sign with a static lighting and
Correct.
so forth, that would be fine.
Yeah, just that sign type. If they did a static sign of that size, we'd be able to permit it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other technical questions? I do need to state that my biggest concern was about the brightness of the sign. All these things use LEDs now, which seem to be exceptionally bright, especially about this time of the evening and then going into the real dark hours. So I was happy that you said that there would be a photo eye to dim it and that there would be times that it would be off. However, it is in an area that it is not allowed, and so this is a challenging decision, but thank you for your report and having that in there. All right. Yes, Ms. Chairman.
Is there any other exceptions where we allow this sign in this same type of district? in the city?
No, they are strictly prohibited in the NMU zoning district.
So I'm thinking on Witzel, past Quick Trip, none of, like, there used to be the Choice Bank and the Renaissance Center. I'm just trying to think, none of them, because they've got residential around them as well. None of those are,
Looking at the zoning map, you transition there, I believe, I'm trying to follow on our map here.
well, if we haven't made any exceptions, that's,
I believe that's SMU over
SMU as you
where you're
get back
thinking.
out there as well.
okay. Thank you.
Any other technical questions? Okay, I'm going to allow public comment on this agenda item, and so I'm going to open that public comment period and request a statement from the applicant if they're here. Is the applicant here and wish to make a statement? Please approach the podium and state your name and address for our records, please.
Kelsey Hayes, I am with Creative Sign Company, and our address is 505 Lawrence Drive in De Pere. So just to kind of answer a couple of those questions that you had, so would you mind pulling up that site map again, kind of showing nope, the other one, I'm sorry, yep, thank you. So that bank, that SMU, I do believe, and I can't say for sure because I did not physically measure, based on kind of driving by it, I do believe that message center is close to a 4x8. I could be incorrect, so I don't want to say that entirely, but I think it's about a 4x8. This message center is going to be a 3x8, so it would be smaller. Granted, I understand the zoning difference between the two. That bank is next to that residential property as well. It just kind of, I guess, got lucky in the fact that it zoned SMU versus a different zoning district than Glacier Dental. Glacier Dental is still being utilized as a commercial building. It still is being utilized as that, so I understand the zoning causes the issues. As far as the message center, if it was zoned something different, it still complies with all those other concerns. I understand lighting is an issue. This message center has a photo eye on it, so during the day, it will shine at a typical normal brightness. As it starts getting darker, and also as the sky even is overcast, so anytime that you're losing like ambient lighting, that sign is automatically going to dim down, so it's not a nuisance. Glacier Dental also talked about, as we mentioned in the application, they are willing to shut it down at a specific time, that way to help, again, cut down on any issues that might be a concern for residents as well. So, you know, whether that's 10 o'clock at night until, 5 a.m. or whatever this, city sees fit, they are more than willing to do that. On another note with the brightness, the sign itself actually has the capability to be turned down in general. So if we feel that it's too bright even during the day hours, that sign can be set so it dims itself down, again, to reduce any kind of issues as far as that brightness concern. So Winnebago Bank is roughly 650 feet away, so that's kind of the difference. And again, that dividing factor is that residential property in between. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other member of the public that wishes to comment on this agenda item? Any other member of the public that wishes to comment? Yes. State your name and address for our records, please.
Katie Ballmer, I'm with Glacier Dental at 1720 Congress Avenue in Oshkosh, and I am working with Kelsey on this project. We are big in the Oshkosh community. I will say that the sign will be used to promote local events. Yes, time and temperature, those things that we always look forward to on our commutes back and forth from work. We'll have promos, we'll have fun things for the community to be involved in, and will not be an eyesore to the area. With that building being there too, adds a modern aspect to the area. I think you'll be very pleased with the results. And the landscaping, there will be landscaping to the east along the parking lot there. That should also help with the residents there, and that's all up to code as well.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wish to speak on this agenda item? Okay, having seen none, I'm going to close this public comment period and ask, the applicant can make a closing statement if they want, but I think we heard both speakers for the applicant. Commission, the action is on you. Ms. Prop.
If I make a motion to adopt the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report, that means that voting yes will deny the application.
Correct.
So what
Or do we
we'll
change it
have
around?
you make a motion in the affirmative to approve
To approve it and then
the project
vote.
as applied for, and that way yes means yes, you want the EMC to go forward, and no means you don't want them to have
All
an
right.
EMC. It's just easier to do it
All right,
that
then I
way.
make a motion to adopt the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report.
So instead of stating the staff report as proposed.
Right, as proposed. No, you're not supposed to.
No, this way by recommending as proposed means their request for approval. So yes means yes, no means no.
Yes means you're approving and no means you are denying.
So a no would mean you agree with staff it should be denied. A yes means yes, you want to allow them to have the EMC.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any commission discussion on the motion? Ms. Davy?
I will be voting no on this for a couple of reasons. One is that I think that any driver distraction is a traffic hazard, and I don't agree with that, especially within city limits in an area that we've said we don't want moving signs. I've also had a local resident that's already complained to me about the Glacier Dental property in general, lives very close by and is very concerned about the size and traffic and everything, and it's like, why add something else to that concern for local residents? But mostly my concern is about the traffic hazard. I don't approve.
Okay, Ms. Prop?
I think the staff recommendation is a good one. This is the wrong zoning, the wrong thing for this zoning. And as described, I feel it's unnecessary messaging. A community bulletin board. If we need a community bulletin board running promo for community events, it needs to be somewhere else, but not here. So I will be voting no.
Other discussion, Mr. Mitchell?
I just second what Margie said, and not so much even just this particular location, but in general. The lighted signs, moving parts are quite a distraction, and I'm pleased to see that our zoning prohibits it in some, and I would encourage looking at future or expansion of that prohibition.
Okay, other discussion on the motion? Okay, I see none, so let's have a roll call vote.
Ms. Davy?
No.
Councilmember Ford?
No.
Mr. Kiefer?
No.
Ms. Prop?
No?
Ms. Shireman?
No.
Mr. Lowenstein?
No.
Mr. Bowen?
No.
Vice Chair Mitchell?
No.
Chairman Perry?
No.
Motion denied, 0-9.
Correct.
Okay.
All right, the last item on our agenda is adjournment.
If I could hop in real quick.
Last item on our agenda is a report from Mark.
Just a reminder, we do not have a meeting on the 20th. That meeting was canceled.
We're done for this year.
We're done for this year. We'll see you bright and early January 3rd.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Second, I heard a second. This could be a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.